Welcome in. First pitch here, Major League Baseball. Just a little over 60 some odd games left for some teams. It is crunch time. Either win them or start selling by the end of this week. So a lot on the line here. Some great division rivalries, couple of games, and some best bets we're going to break down for you, and we're going to do it with three of the best in Major League Baseball all year long. Two of the best here. Didn't see Brian Power in the house here, but he's here anyway, so we have to tolerate him. Adam Trigger is also in the house. Trigger in here, as is R1L Steve Merrill. And yes, you saw it, guys. Brian Power in the house. Always a pleasure to see you gentlemen here on a $9 Monday. And we've got some games to get into, so let's get into them here right off the bat if we can, including Brian Power, who is going to, interesting for a big game breakdown here. It's one a couple of guys at the site have been looking at today. Give us your big game breakdown. What'd you look at here today?
Well, Joe, it's such a pleasure to see you, first of all, here on a Monday. What a way to start the week. But what we're going to break down here is Mariners-Twins. We're getting an immediate pitching rematch from 5 days ago. Luis Castillo and Kenta Maeda, these two faced off against each other in Seattle last week. Both turned in quality starts. Castillo goes 6 innings, gives up 3 runs, plus he had 11 strikeouts. Maeda even stingier, just allows 2 runs on 3 hits and 6 1/3. He had 9 strikeouts. But as good as both pitchers were last Wednesday, the game ends up 6-3 in favor of the Twins. And bettors, they've jumped on the over for today's rematch. The number moved from 7.5 to 8. And Castillo and Maeda are both 3-0 to the over their last 3 starts, with Castillo going over in 5 straight. So that move is understandable. An issue for Castillo is he's allowed 2 home runs in 5 of his last 6 starts, including 2 solo shots to the Twins last time out. Bettors may also be thinking over here because Maeda has an 8.44 ERA and 1.56 whip at home. But I just wanted to caution everyone about reading too much into that. It's a small sample size. He's only started 3 times at home. And those numbers are really skewed by one terrible outing he had against the Yankees, which was all the way back in April. Gives up 10 runs that day. It's kind of old news. Since coming off the IL, Maeda, 2.72 ERA in 5 starts, 0.92 whip the last 3. So, Joe, I actually lean Twins in Monday's series opener. They just swept the White Sox over the weekend. I have these teams power rated fairly evenly, so I just don't think the Mariners deserve to open as a favorite. Nice value on the home team here on Monday.
Feel like I just saw that too, right? I mean, weren't a week ago, wasn't it Seattle? Same pitchers, same everything, and voila! We'll see if it can be 2 for 2 for Minnesota here. Should be an interesting one coming up. And Trig, you got yourself a big game breakdown as well. Took a long look at this game. Break it down for us here.
Yeah, so for big game breakdown, I'll go over to the AL Central, Royals, Guardians. The Royals, yesterday, I'm on Kansas City, plus 1.5. They hit 4 home runs, pound out 12 hits, and still managed to not be able to stay within the plus 1.5. And that's ultimately going to be the kind of the frustration with them, because they have, their hard hit numbers are pretty good. And they'll do, that's a pretty good production in a game like that. But to not, obviously to not cover the plus 1.5 there is frustrating. So I would be looking at the Royals again this year, again in this spot. And I just want to say, I've got one play that I really like tonight. It's up for $9. The other 2 that were close, I'm sort of breaking down right now. I thought about coming back with the Royals in this spot for a couple of reasons. So first, I'm not sold on the Guardians. This is a team that's been very average all season. They're sort of getting by right now with guys that I thought would still be at AAA Columbus. Their pitching rotation, and that's not like an insult by any means, because some of the young guys have been good, but they've been forced to sort of go to battle with no Shane Bieber, no Quantrill, no Tristan McKenzie. Couple of that, like McKenzie for the better part of the season now. And it's guys like Gavin Williams, and then today's starter, Logan Allen, who are being sort of thrust into the rotation in kind of a race for the AL Central. And I just, with all the other things that the Guardians, in my opinion, to believe that they're going to be like a winning team, especially against the -1.5. Down the stretch under those circumstances. Now, they do have a good bullpen, but what this bullpen isn't great at is the high leverage situations. High leverage innings, you see it again yesterday. They do almost come back, but then they give up the runs in the 10th to the Phillies and lose that game. They've actually blown as many saves as any team in the league. And yesterday they went through a bullpen game where the only guy that didn't pitch was Emmanuel Class, who Friday and Saturday night. The Guardians bullpen not in great shape here. And, Logan Allen's been solid. He's going to be the starter, 12.2 scoreless innings over his last 3 starts. But it's hard, it's hard to know if he'll go particularly deep. And if you go back to the last time he faced the Royals, he had a ton of run support and only managed to get through 17 batters before he threw 100 pitches and was out of that game. And somehow under those circumstances didn't give up a run, which is amazing. To only face 17 batters, throw 100 pitches, and manage to get out unscathed without giving up a run. Highly unlikely that would happen under those circumstances. So, the Guardians, they might, if they don't get a long outing from Allen here, I think they could be their bullpen. Yarborough, really good numbers against the Guardians. In his career, in 4 career starts, he's 3-0 with a 1.78 ERA. And of course, for the Royals, as everyone's very obvious at this point, they are a losing team. They've lost 5 straight. They're 3-14 in their last 7 games. But when you lose a couple games in a row, typically your high leverage relief arms are rested because they haven't really been thrust into action. And that's kind of been the case with them, of course, kind of coming from behind yesterday against the Yankees. They didn't really have to use their top bullpen arms. So if the Royals do get in a situation where they're tied or in the lead in this game, at least they've got the top arms. And if it's like a 1-run game, I have a feeling they're gonna go to those top arms to keep it a 1-run game because they haven't won in a while. So I like the Royals here on the +1.5. I think it's good value. I think they give you another good effort. Whether they'll whether they'll royal on you and do what they did yesterday to me, I'm not sure. But it's still, you shouldn't be laying a 1.5 of the Guardians in here, in my opinion. So I like the Royals +1.5 for those reasons. That's my big game breakdown.
It was a low total, too, 7.5. It was bet up to 8. And I don't know why they just don't make Yarbrough a starter. His numbers as a starter compared to a reliever are night and day. Like, just start the guy, throw him out there, Trig. I don't know what they're screwing around with.
Yeah, you know what, though? That's deceiving, though, Joe, because he was starting a lot of games in, like, the opener fashion for the Rays. Yeah. And yes, I don't know that you would ever really be considered a starter there because Kevin Cash knew the exact pitch he was going to take him out. Like he was like, he had that down to a science. Like, I'm going to take him out on this batter pretty much. Whereas he's now in a dysfunctional organization. And it's just like, I don't know that that's like a comparison you can make, but yeah, the numbers would say that, but I think some of that has to do with his time in Tampa.
Yeah, well, and these guys, creatures of habit here a lot of times too, especially with pitchers. But we'll see if you can get it done here tonight for Kansas City, taking on the Guardians. And Merrill, you too have got your eye on an intriguing matchup here for a big game breakdown. Tell us about it.
Yeah, from a playoff perspective, this is probably the most important 3-game series over the next 3 days and nights, and that is in the NL Central, the awful NL Central. But the 2 leaders right now are Milwaukee and Cincinnati. In fact, the Reds are half a game behind the Brewers as they head into this first of 3 games tonight in Milwaukee, but they're actually a half a game ahead if you look at expected win-loss record based on run differential. And Milwaukee, they're 10 games up on the season, but they're 19-8 in 1-run games this year. They're 11 net games up on 1-run games, only 10 games up overall. Meanwhile, Cincinnati is 9 games above 500, but they're only 2 net games up, 21-19 in 1-run games. It's crazy that the Reds have played 40 1-run games, considering how good they are offensively, how suspect they are pitching. You would think they'd be blowouts one way or the other, but they've actually played a lot of close games. And I think for that reason, they're definitely a live dog here tonight. They opened plus money overnight. Now it's around even money, even slightly -101, -105 at some books. But the Reds are still the dog in this game. And I would lean that way. I think they're the much better offensive team. In fact, they are the much better offensive team. There's really no doubt about that. And in a situational 3-game matchup like this, I think the offense is important. Now, if the Reds win this division and make the postseason, I think they're in big trouble. They don't have the pitching to compete And I think Milwaukee actually does have better pitching. But the Brewers for several years now, despite having some really good starters such as Burns, Woodruff, Peralta the last few seasons, have always underachieved because their offense has been so bad. And that's the case once again this year. So I like Cincinnati's a live dog in this game. They've won 5 straight heading into this one, good momentum. And I'd also take a look at the over 9 or less. Now, there are a couple of sharp offshore books are at 9.5, leading indicator books around the world. So make sure you get a 9 or less, 9 minus 120 over or less. 9's a very key number. The Reds, though, this is a cheap total for the Reds. As I mentioned, how good offensively, averaging over 5 runs a game this season. 17 of their last 20 games, they've had a total of at least 9.5 or higher. And 19 of their last 20 games, it's been 9 or higher. So this is about as low as it gets for a Reds game. And I think we get the opportunity to take the over here at a discounted price. And the reason it's a discounted price is, once again, because Milwaukee's not a good offensive team. And the Brewers have gone under 9 of their last 10. But I think that ends tonight. I think we see an over, and I think the Reds are a live dog as well.
So interesting number with them Brewers too, right? 9-35 on the season when they score 3 or fewer runs, and they're 46-10 if they score at least 4 or more. So I don't know what that team total is tonight, Merrill, for them, but if anybody likes the Brewers, and you know how it's got to work. They got to score at least 4 or more in order to be able to get it done here. So not winning a lot of those close games by any stretch. And we'll see if that bullpen can keep it going here. Maybe some regression on its way as the Reds look to keep banging it out, man. And my goodness, what a fun team this is going to be to watch down the stretch. Those are your big game breakdowns, but we do have some best bets here that we're going to go around the horn and see what these guys like. And we'll start with Brian Power on a $9 Monday, who I know is locked and loaded, ready to go. Card is up for you, BP. Tell us, what is the best bet here? What game did you circle for us?
Well, before I get to the best bet, Joe, I have been told I need to plug something, and that is a brand new betting series here on the YouTube channel, WagerTalk TV, the Power 5. Guess who's the host of that one, Joe? I'll give you 2 guesses, and the first one doesn't count. It is me. So, yes, we have a brand new betting series started today. We go through the MLB card every day as the plan. We'll give you lots of trends, angles, line movement, talk about everything. And this is a game I did not talk about on that show, but I'm going to talk about it right here. My best bet is the Blue Jays, who are visiting the Dodgers tonight. The Dodgers, they lead the NL West by 4 games. We all know that. They're finally back home. First time since July 8th. But Toronto, and this is always interesting because, you know, Steve just mentioned how bad the NL Central is. Well, we all know how good the AL East is. Toronto, when they're outside their division this year, 48-25. That includes a 20-9 record in interleague play. So when they step outside those familiar opponents, they do quite well. And it's a less than favorable pitching matchup tonight from the Dodgers' perspective. Berrios has a 1.47 ERA and a .98 whip his last 3 starts. He has not gotten a win in any of those games, but the team's 2-1. And you go back further, Berrios has allowed 3 runs or less in 15 of his last 18 starts. Pretty good. The Dodgers, they're going with Michael Grove. He's looked better each of his last 2 times out, but we're still talking about a 6.52 ERA and 1.60 whip in his 9 starts overall. His expected ERA, okay, it's a full point lower, 5.17, but that's still not very good. So I think it's a big edge to Toronto in tonight's starting pitching matchup. And, you know, it's interesting, Joe, because the chatter at the start of the season was how the altered dimensions at Rogers Center were going to supposedly benefit Toronto's offense, but they're scoring more on the road than at home this year. So, you know, Grove's going to have to deal with that as well. You look at the first 5 line for this game. We're starting to see some shops that have Berrios as the favorite. I think that speaks volumes. You could just try the Jays first 5 here, but my play, best bet for the show today, Monday, July 24th, Jays on the road. They come in and steal Monday's series opener at Dodger Stadium.
Ooh, man, that's all right. Look like he's fading the Dodgers at home here tonight, taking on the Jays here. Should be a good one here tonight, though. That's going to be one of the late games here. And how about you, Trig? You too have got yourself circled here on an intriguing matchup for a best bet. Tell us.
Yeah, so I'm going to look to the Phillies. This team, Joe, I'll tell you, they screwed Brian and I on separate occasions this weekend in 5% plays. Totally unfocused effort for the Phillies all weekend. I watched that entire series. They played the Guardians. I mean, stuff that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, like it's not errors, it's just not making plays that should be made. Cost them on Saturday on a fly ball, but it was really just poor all around play from them. And I thought they were fortunate to win yesterday, almost blowing that game and then winning in extras. But they come back home here, and so the reason I sort of started off with that is I think that they'll be a little bit more focused being at home. And this is not a bad baseball team. Like they're 53 and 46. They have a great offense, and there really is a lot of pieces to like about the Phillies. The one thing I don't like about them is the fact that they tend to just lose focus at times and make like losing type plays, which I think can be corrected. Now, if there was a team that might be a little bit unfocused here, I think it would be more likely to be the Orioles, who just took 3 of 4 in Tampa from the Rays. And, this could be a little bit of a letdown spot. But in addition to that, I think this might be a tough spot for Dean Kramer. So he's a guy I've talked about a bunch over the past few weeks. I've talked about him on First Pitch, actually, like, probably his last few starts. I just end up on the show every time he's pitching. But he struggled against the Dodgers last time out. But he hasn't really paid for it in terms of like wins, losses, and on the stat sheet as much as I think he should have. So you look at his last 7 starts, the Orioles are 6-1 in those starts. They've scored 43 runs of run support for him. But his ERA is 4.66 in that span. And I feel like he's sort of maybe building to a bad start. It hasn't come as easy for him as it did earlier this season for a stretch. And if you go back to way earlier this season, he had a stretch where he got hit pretty hard. So I'm not counting on him going particularly deep in this game. I think this Phillies offense could do some damage against him. And then you look at the Orioles bullpen, which, you're Potentially looking at Yenner Cano and Felix Bautista both being unavailable here. They worked extensively over the weekend to the point where I think the Orioles, I don't know if they've come out and announced that at this point, but I think they've pretty much said without saying that those two will likely not throw tonight, which leaves a pretty big hole, in the bullpen, in the later innings of this game. Now, Fujinami they traded for. He's there, and he could be the late inning guy in this game. He throws 102, but you never really know where the ball's going, and it's like he's really, but he's hit or miss, right? Like he's either gonna just mow guys down, or he could get into trouble. I think that's like I'd rather be on the other side of that, meaning I'd rather be playing against that, which we would be with the Phillies here. And then Christopher Sanchez, he's been solid. Like he's not going to go insanely deep into games, but he's given them 5 to 6 good innings in most of his starts. 3.06 ERA, 1.05 WHIP, and the Phillies, even though they went to extra innings yesterday, they didn't cook their bullpen in that game, so they'll have their guys in the right spots for this game. So I didn't make this a client play yet. It could be. I kind of wanted to see lineups and stuff like that before I decided to jump in officially. But this will be my best bet for the show. I think it's a tough spot for the Orioles. I think the Phillies have to play better in this series than they did in that Guardian series, especially being back at home. So I like the Phillies here for my best bet, -115. And if I do add this as a client play, I will post it to Twitter. So just follow, make sure you're following me on Twitter, and you'll get that for free.
Got to give the bullpen advantage to Philadelphia here. That was a monster series for Baltimore, and now they got to travel to Philadelphia, Trig, it's an interleague game. It just feels like there's going to be a letdown. Tonight's the game.
Well, and Joe, think about it. Like, look at where the Orioles are at, right? Like they have no reason to jeopardize guys right now. Like they're so far out. I mean, yeah, they're in a battle with the Rays, but that's largely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. That none of these teams really care about winning the division anymore. I truly believe that. Even you go back to last year, you see like the guys or the teams that had success in the earlier rounds. They're not going to throw either of those guys tonight, and that puts them at a disadvantage.
I agree 100% there. All right, should be that's a good one here, but Merrill's got one coming up here, and I love the approach to this game, Merrill, that you are taking here. Lay out the best bet here, because I sure as hell wouldn't play the side. What are you looking at?
Going to look at a free play, a free baseball play for tonight on Monday, July the 24th, and it's going to be the biggest price game on the board, and that's the Pirates at Padres, a late West Coast game at 9:40 Eastern. And we're not going to mess with the side. Not going to lay almost 3-1 here with the Padres, but also no interest in the Pirates with Priester on the mound. Priester got shelled in his MLB debut, 11.5 ERA. I'm sorry, 11.81 to be exact. And this is the guy who was pretty mediocre in minors at a 4.31 ERA. So definitely don't want anything to do with either side here. And that's because the Padres offense has been really inconsistent this season. Now, the Pirates have been bad offensively all year, and I don't think they had much success tonight against Yu Darvish. So we're going to look at the under in this game. I think under 8.5 minus $1.15 between the Pirates and Padres has some value. And yes, I am a little worried about Priester being so bad in his debut, and he had a mediocre 4.3 ERA in the minors this year. He's an average pitcher, but he was first round number 18 overall pick 4 years ago by the Pirates. A lot of upside still. And I don't think this is a good spot for the Padres offense. They're returning home for the first time since the All-Star break. They've been on the road for the past week and a half since the post-All-Star break games began. And now they return home from Detroit with no rest. Not a good spot offensively. And this is a team that scored 1 run or less in 2 of their last 4 games. They've scored 2 runs or less in 3 of their last 5 games on that road trip. And now they return home without rest. So Priester could have a deceivingly better outing tonight than expected for the Pirates. And I don't think the Pirates get much success off of Yu Darvish. And just to put it in perspective how good Darvish is, this is a guy last year did make the All-Star team, and he still finished 8th overall in Cy Young voting. And Tokyo Brandon said a few weeks ago when I was talking to him on WagerTalk today that he saw Ohtani play in high school. And I asked Tokyo, was he the best player you've ever seen in high school? He said second best. Yu Darvish, the best high school baseball player he's ever seen in Japan. So I look for both pitchers to have good outings, both offenses to struggle tonight. Let's take a look at under 8.5 between the Pirates and Padres Monday night, 9:40 Eastern. And don't forget, it is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. My strongest best bet, my one official best bet, is just $9. It's a powerful MLB steamroller blowout for Monday night. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, I mean, listen, nobody, doesn't live up to the expectations of how many games they should win, like that Padres lineup there, Merrill. So they might actually throw Brian Power out there and they'd struggle to get actually runs across. So under 8.5 for Merrill. The Phillies for Trey.
I'll throw some high heat, buddy.
You ain't throwing. You in squat is what you throwing. And it is Toronto, though. So we got some intriguing matchups here. It's crunch time, guys. Just about a week away here from the trade deadline. So what are teams going to do? These teams that got to win, they better show up and show out here big in Cincinnati with Milwaukee here tonight. And of course, a lot more coming your way this week. But since it is $9 Monday, there's no reason not to take advantage and head on over to WagerTalk.com and take advantage of those best bets from all 3 of these gentlemen, the entire site for that matter. $9 best bets over at WagerTalk.com. Take advantage. And if you guys are interested in the NFL, I don't know if you know this, but the season's coming up. Maybe you're thinking about joining a contest or 2 over the next couple of weeks. I would encourage you guys to check out Las Vegas Chris and the kind of tips that he gave you there on Wager Talk today were outstanding here, guys. And nobody knows better than Las Vegas Chris. He has been an absolute monster in these tournaments. So make sure you check out that video and then come back and join us again tomorrow. First pitch live again, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you then.